people tell you, remember, you can do whatever you want just as long as you set your mind to it. That has some truth to it, but a lot of it is false. Because I can even ask you, do you know exactly what you want to do for a living? Right now, if I asked you.
No.
In 5 to 10 years, so specific to where I asked you, in 5 years, you would know how much you're making, where you're going to be working. A lot of people aren't going to know.
No.
And so maybe we should focus on what we need to do, not what we want. Guys, welcome to another episode of the Common Podcast, where we speak upon common sense and realize it really isn't that common. Guys, this was a great episode. I enjoyed recording this one so much. This one's going to be dedicated to all the fathers out there, hence the name Honor Your Father. Wasn't planned that way, it just kind of happened. Honestly, this was a podcast recorded a couple of weeks ago, and I need to get some other ones before I did this one, and just kind of timed perfectly. So some pretty exciting things in this discussion were talked about. First and foremost, I'm going to be having a child. I myself am going to be a father, so that's pretty exciting. Leave a like for that. Make sure, if you're on Spotify or YouTube, for the new listeners, you can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can find the podcast. So, go hit us up on there. If you want to get in contact with the podcast, the best way to do that is through Instagram, being The Real Common Podcast. But yeah, guys, super, super cool conversation today. We talk about family lineage. We talk about the importance of our history, our family history, and why we should take that with us going forward. We talk about identity. We talk about, because there's an identity crisis going on, I believe, right now. So we talk about the importance of nature versus nurture within yourself, temperaments, all this great stuff. Really good episode. I hope that y'all enjoy it just as much as I did recording it, or we did rather. And that's going to be it. I hope y'all enjoy. And until next time, we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you.
On the track.
All right, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Common Podcast, where we speak upon common sense and realize it really isn't that common. Ladies and gentlemen, today I got my good friend here, Angel, back.
Yes,
Welcome
sir.
back for another good episode. Today, before we get into the conversation, I want to let you all know that if you want to get a hold of me, I'm going to say this first because I keep forgetting. Make sure you go check out the Instagram, which is The Real Common Podcast. If you have any video ideas, you can go ahead and ship them to me on there. But yeah, so today's conversation, the title is going to be Honor Your Father. And I'm going to add a little truth bomb, a little reveal here, which I didn't tell you I was going to do. But and you already know, but I'm going to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's the first time I'm saying it. The second time I'm saying it on the internet, but most people don't see my other podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a father, and I'm extremely excited, but I've been meditating, or things have been marinating in my mind a little bit different as the process has been coming along. So we've known for a few weeks now. I want to say like 5 weeks. And so I've been trying to study and learn more about children and the cognitive abilities and stuff like that, how to increase that. But I've really been caught in the rabbit hole on what can I do best to raise my children? What can my wife do? And what can I control and what can I control? And I've been pretty much obsessed with that. And so one thing that came up to my mind, and I wanted to talk about it, was honor your father. And what I feel has happened is that people have lost touch with that narrative. And we'll go a little bit more on it. But you recently just became a father. So
Yeah.
Which I thought that this was the best way to have a conversation is, I'm soon to be a father, and you are already a father. So
Yes, sir. About a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy ride, man. Really, nothing prepares you for that moment when he comes out, you cut the cord, they give him to you. Man, I can't describe it. I know it's gonna be really special for you too, man.
I can just imagine. Everybody tells me that, because right now it's like it's real, but it's not that real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The baby isn't here yet, but
it doesn't get real literally till he's born. For us, man, right? For women, psychologically, you're gonna start noticing, like, okay, there's changes being made already.
Yeah.
But for you personally, you're like,
same thing.
Until he's here. Yeah, until he's here, then things ramp up and it changes.
That's what I hear from everybody. And I really do hope that it happens. I like that also that I have you here is because you're a little bit ahead of me. You know what I mean? So I get to see what's gonna eventually happen. Hopefully.
I mean, honestly, I believe every child comes out differently. Every child has a different temperament.
Temperaments, yeah.
I've been really lucky that mine's really relaxed temperament. He sleeps through the night. Obviously, it could change, but for right now, it honestly hasn't really been not that much of a challenge as of yet. I think the challenge just comes when they start getting a little older and they start asking questions and thinking for themselves. I think that'll be the true challenge. But for right now, it's pretty simple, man. Like, make sure they're okay.
Yeah, survive, right?
Survive. That's like the first month. You're just looking at them and they're just surviving, dude.
Yeah. So I've been looking into temperaments a lot because I think that's something that you really
you think you control.
I don't think you. Can
I was about to say I don't think so, man.
Right.
So we have friends that have had kids and they'll come out like rambunctious and they cry a lot and they don't let them sleep and this and that. And then I know other kids that like mine, really calm. If he's fed, he's happy. Like today I got home, he was fed. He was just laying down on his little his little pillow lounger, and he was just looking around. Like, that's that's not every kid. And
well, not even just kid, but like young adults too. Well, you start to see their personality.
Personality, that's a totally different thing.
Well, I think
the thing is like
temperament.
Didn't we have a conversation about that temperament personality?
Yeah,
I believe
we talked a little bit about it. It wasn't dedicated to it,
yeah.
But we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Do you think you control personality?
I believe that it's a mixture of nature and nurture.
Yeah.
So I had this conversation with a really good friend of mine, and I was like, because I lean more towards nature than I do nurture. Because I told him, how much do you think that you can control nurturing somebody versus the nature aspect of them? And so I gave financials as an example. It's like somebody who really isn't extroverted, doesn't really like too much attention, is really to themselves, is going to be very good with money, right? They don't need all this lavish stuff in order for them to flaunt themselves for attention because they're very, to themselves. As opposed to if somebody is very extroverted and wants that attention from others, they're going to try to buy these things in order to impress other people. But let's say they had a parent that was all constantly telling them, save your money. I think that nature and nurture is going to clash. Yeah. And they may win some battles and they may lose some battles. And so that's where I'm kind of stuck at. But what I do believe, if they both go the same way, it could possibly be extremely detrimental. So it's like, let's say somebody is introverted and they had really greedy parents. They might grow up very greedy. Yeah. And let's say somebody's extroverted and their parents are very poor with money. They just spend all their money. That person might...
More than likely, right?
More than likely. I mean, then again, there's differences because there can be a child that can look at their parents like, oh, I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck like that. And they can invest. But I think the ones that are more temperamentally introverted, I think introverted and extroverted is probably the wrong way to go about it. But you know what I mean? They're very smart with money.
Yeah, that's the nature. It's like what comes from within. What thoughts brew in their own heads that you can't control. Like, you're not going to be able to control... certain things about your kid that you wish you could. Yeah. Because, that's going to develop inside. And it's built from their experiences. And we both know that people react differently to things, Yeah. It's just, I think that comes down to temperament. Temperament and experiences, maybe. Maybe that's what shapes personality. But honestly, I can't even imagine getting there right now. Right now, I'm just... making sure he's alive.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking. Easy. I guess I'm just thinking.
You're thinking too far ahead because when he gets here, it's just gonna be pure survival. Just help him get through every day. But now I'm noticing it's been a month and a half, and now I'm noticing he's starting to look around more. He's starting to notice things. Yeah. Around the 1 month mark, maybe a little earlier, you start calling his name or call his attention, and he'll start turning at you. And it's just I know it seems like whatever, but it's amazing. It is. It's amazing. It you're watching the process and you feel proud, man. You feel really proud. But like I said, that will probably be, I would say, man, my earliest memories are probably, 3-4 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say the same?
I wouldn't.
No?
Remember. I know it's before 6 because I have some clear memories of when my parents were married. And, they got divorced around I was 6. So I would say maybe 4 or 5.
Maybe because that was like a real traumatic point in your life.
Oh,
so
definitely.
That's like more
You know what?
triggering. And you
I
remember that?
I have memories of Head Start, which is around 4 years old.
Yeah. So that's the age I'm thinking 4 to, I believe, even 22. Man, I don't think 18-year-olds are actual adults.
I think especially for men.
For men, yeah, for sure. Maybe if you have a daughter more advanced, right?
Mm-hmm.
She matures quicker. That's what people say.
That's the amazing thing.
I'm not really sure.
Is that there's some pretty advanced kids out there.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like my niece, bro, she can count to 10. She's only 2.
Yeah.
She can count to 10.
That's amazing.
In English and Spanish.
Oh, see,
and she knows her alphabet completely in English and Spanish. She knows shapes.
Yeah.
She knows our vehicles. She identifies us by our vehicles. She sees my truck pulling up. I just bought my truck.
Yeah.
She was there with me when I bought the truck. The next time I went to go see her, she was like,
she knew. She associated that with you.
Yeah, Theo RJ's here. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that consumed me a little bit too much, where it was kind of messing with my head. It's like, well, I want like an intelligent, good-looking child. It's like, bro, you can't control that. And I understand that. Listen, guys, are y'all tired of being fat and unhealthy? Look, I feel you. I've struggled with weight loss for a majority of my life, but I recently lost 32 pounds. I want to tell y'all exactly how I did it. I changed my diet. I ate a little bit healthier. I know how hard that can be with so much convenient fast food restaurants, convenient grab-and-go foods that you can just pick up and go. But I want to show y'all a way where y'all can stay convenient and eat a bit healthier. That's why I want to tell y'all about my good friends at Primitive Eats. It's a local, homegrown, small business that is a meal prep company. And they are derived off the paleo diet. Really quickly, paleo is just a natural way of eating food. Taking out simple carbs, sticking to the earth. Okay? It is very good for you. It's very healthy for you. And you can support a local small business. It's always great. So if you're in the Los Fresnos, Brownsville, or Harlingen, San Benito area, go check them out. They have plans where you can buy for the full week. They will deliver it for you. Quick, easy, and go. And it's super delicious. They support the podcast. I support them. Go check them out. And if you don't want to get their meal plan, listen, check out their Instagram. That is Primitive Eats 90. I'm going to leave it in the description. If you're not going to follow them for the meal preps, follow them for their memes, because their memes are hilarious. Also, little quick fun fact, they do raffles, which I recently won concert tickets on their page. True story. Go check them out. I support Primitive Eats. Primitive Eats supports the podcast, and we love them. Go check them out. But what I want to get to is more of like in the society level. Do you have any, because I know you're saying you're thinking about now and survival, but do you have any worries about everything that's going on right now?
Yeah.
With the school system, what's being pushed? Because we're hearing a lot about agendas being pushed by teachers, like identity, sex, politics.
Yeah.
You know, the whole transgender and the LGBTQ thing, all that's being pushed by like teachers nowadays. And
yeah,
you don't have any concerns about that?
I think maybe obviously I think geography has a lot to do with that, because where we live, I don't think that's happening unless you have information that because honestly, I mean, I'm gonna be real. Texas still uses some old literature books, you know, and they're teaching, and they teach standardized tests, so they teach by the book and they teach to pass the test. That's how they do it here. Now, in maybe more advanced or liberal places, whatever, they do get into like different stuff like that, right? Or if you live in a bigger city, you're gonna be exposed to different things like that because there's more people. Yeah. But I think in our because our community is still pretty small, our niche community down here, I'm not so worried about that. I think it's more like just trying to not control, because you can't control, man. It's just trying to influence him with good ideas, because I know bad ideas are going to come in
Yeah.
no matter what. That's no matter where you are. Now, what specific bad ideas are going to be, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Right? But I think just communication with your child is important, and you have to talk to him, and you're going to have to talk through with him a lot of stuff. Because if you just, man, you see it all the time now. If you just like, oh, they get home from school, they go to their rooms, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you're not speaking to them, you know, and if they have access to the internet, obviously they're going to be exposed to a lot of different things that you wouldn't like for them to know already, but just the algorithm's going to push it their way.
100%. And that's like on a broader spectrum of society, because it's like, how do you control what's going on around the world about the whole agendas being pushed? Disney, you know, making 50% of their characters LGBTQ, whatever it is. And so how do we control that? Do you even want to control that? Should we arm our children with the correct knowledge? What we think, what we perceive, because that's very important too. It's like, are we correct? Right? Yeah. So it's, should we arm our children with the correct knowledge in order to combat all these crazy things that's going on? Or do we just kind of like, well, it's luck, I guess.
But that's just the way it is. I believe it's how you present it to them, you know, how you explain things to them. How you come off. Is it like, are you saying things out of anger or hate, or are you like, are you trying to nurture them like, no, that's not okay because of this and that, you know? Give them reasons, give them, obviously when they're older, but man, like I said, even thinking about that point, that's the scary point, man. That's when you really start to worry. And I believe that starts right when they go to school, because right when they go to school, they're gonna come across kids that unfortunately don't have really good influences in their lives. So they're gonna bully, and they're gonna be like, "Why is that kid mean to me? I didn't do anything."
Yeah.
And they're not gonna understand it. And how can you explain to like a small child, oh, because of this and this and that? They're not gonna get that. They're just gonna know like, okay, like this is bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're not gonna be able to protect them from everything. But at the same time, you shouldn't want them to protect them from anything, because at the end of the day, bad experiences like help you learn too. Yeah,
that's 100% true. I think it would be a great thing actually if more things like that actually happen nowadays. I think people are very well, this might be kind of changing the topic a little bit, but I think people are overly obsessed with their identity.
Yeah.
And I received a message a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago.
Oh, give it to me. What did they say?
I love how you always love to hear this.
It is funny.
No, there's this female that I was going to come out with the podcast. It didn't come out too well, so it didn't go up. But this girl was talking about identity and how I should be careful about having that discussion because people's identity is important to them. And I said, well, yeah, I agree with you, but I don't think it should be that important to people. I think that people are so obsessed with their identity that they try to create their own, and they're trying to create another persona, trying to basically run away from their nature. I don't think that I believe there was a time where people were proud of their surname.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case anymore. It's like you used to be proud, and that's why I named this podcast what it is I believe people used to be proud to honor their father.
Yeah.
It's like back in the day, it's like, oh, you're so-and-so's kid, right? It's like, I can tell, right? It's like, oh, you're a good boy, right? Oh, yeah, well, I can assume that.
Hey, you look like this person. Hey, you look like that.
Exactly. It's like, oh, you look like your father. And it's like,
yeah.
I would probably think that some kids will probably get upset with that nowadays.
Yeah, it's true.
And so I think that people are running away from their nature, and they're trying to create whoever they want to be. And I think that's going to get us into a lot of trouble. Because going back to the temperament talk, it's kind of like you're trying to clash away from your gifts. And the best example that I can give for this is like, we hear that very cliche, and in some parts it's true, but it's conceived very wrong a lot of the times. Is people tell you, remember, you can do whatever you want just as long as you set your mind to it. That has some truth to it, but a lot of it is false. And a lot of people don't like to hear that.
Yeah.
But here's the case. It's like, well, I want to be a NBA star. I'm 5'9". I'm Hispanic, right? Yeah. And I'm not very athletic.
Yeah.
Right? I can rain threes, though. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like maybe we should stop focusing on what we want to do and focus on what we need to do. And then based on what we need to do, we actually find also what we want to do.
Yeah.
Because I can even ask you, do you know exactly what you want to do for a living right now if I asked you?
No.
In 5 to 10 years, so specific to where I asked you, in 5 years, you would know how much you're making, where you're going to be working. A lot of people aren't going to know.
No,
and that's the
of course
truth.
not.
And I'm one of those people too. And so the simple fact is that is like, you should do whatever you want to do. Well, a lot of people don't even know what they want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe you should take care of what you need to do and stop running away from your nature. Stop running away from your God-given gifts and actually attack things that you're good at. It's like, well, I'm very extroverted and I'm outspoken. Well, you should be a businessman. You should be a salesman. You should be this. You should be that. And I'm not telling people that they should follow corporate jobs. It's like, well, if you want to have your own business, I mean, if you're a good speaker, you can align yourself in certain ways.
Yeah.
Right. But let's say you're very introverted. You love to be outdoors. You love to do this. You love to be a handyman or whatnot. Going out and being a lawyer is probably not going to be your thing.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so maybe we should focus on what we need to do, not what we want, because it doesn't always work out. And again, there's anomalies out there, right? And that's not always the case, but this is what I'm talking about when I say that people just run away from their nature, run away from their gifts, and it doesn't usually work out, and they're upset about it. And so they say, so when they join a field, let's say they join entertainment, and they're like, why is that person successful and I'm not? That's not fair, right?
Yeah.
And so they blame the hierarchy of, oh, well, people are just racist. And that's how people come up with these crazy accusations like, oh, it's because I'm Hispanic or it's because I'm black that I can't make it in this. So we should make it everything fair. That person that has 1 million followers should spread out their followers to all of us. And it's like, no, maybe you're just working against your nature. Maybe you shouldn't be in the entertainment business in the begin with.
Yeah.
And so let's take a step back and really find out what you're talented and gifted at. And then you can take it from there. But I know that's kind of like a weird tangent, but that's where I feel that we're at in society nowadays, that people are too obsessed with their identity and making their own identity. And what they're doing is that they're separating themselves from their nature. And in a sense, they're not truly honoring their father.
Yeah.
There was a time also where people were named after what they did. That's how you see names such as shoemaker, blacksmith.
What's a Quintero?
Well, I wouldn't know. I mean, not all last names are like that.
Yeah.
But that's why you see a lot of those names. Yeah. A baker, shoemaker, all these, because people were identified by what they were good at, by what their temperament aligned them with.
Their job, what they did.
Yeah. And so after that, the next generation will kind of follow. It's like, well, my father was a shoemaker, and so now I got to be a shoemaker. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you have to do a specific thing. What I'm saying is that you have gifts, and you should be proud of where you come from.
I agree.
And take it from there.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think you see it all the time. I think this happens more with younger people nowadays. I think once you get older, you start to realize exactly what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But like when let's take it back to right when we're 18. A lot of people were like, I'm gonna leave this place because I'm better than this, or like I see myself above this somehow, right? And they go up to a different place, and maybe they do well, maybe they don't, right? But when they go up there, you kind of see a little bit of change. Oh no, I'm from here. We have the best this. We have the best that. Back home, the food is better. Back home, we have a beach. Like all of a sudden they're proud of where they're from because their environment changed that way. Oh, being from there, that means now I'm different.
Yeah.
But when I go back home, I'm like, oh no, up there. Yeah.
100%.
It's a very interesting thing, man, that you see, or like you had a certain group of friends and they called you a nickname, and then you move out. It's like, that's not my name anymore. I'm me.
Like
this is my new identity. Right?
Shout out.
Shout out.
If he's watching this.
It's like people, like that's a big factor. Like people like to try to reinvent themselves. Trying to, okay, I'm not that anymore. I'm gonna be this. You know, but there was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing wrong with where you're from. It's just you trying to find a way to make yourself, I don't know, feel better about yourself by being unique or something like that. Yeah. Right? But
you know what I think that also ties in with, and you said this in one of the chats that we have, and I really loved it. Part of that is romanticizing the past.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I want to get out of this place, right? And then they're out and they're like, oh, I remember back then.
Yeah.
Times were simpler. And I can go to the beach whenever I wanted, like just like you said, homemade tortillas and all this crazy stuff. They're romanticizing the past as if it was this paradise place. And then we'll just wait 5 to 10 years later, they're going to do that to the same position that they're in right now. That's crazy how we do that. And I think we all pretty much
do that with everything. Like, it's pretty interesting when I see like people, when people romanticize certain periods in history, I'm like, you know, man, like, the world's been advancing. Back then, things weren't that great.
Yeah,
like
100%.
you just see like things from this romantic view of the history. Is like, no, man, like, there were a lot of different issues back then you would have dealt with that now it's like you don't even have to think about.
You don't even have to think about.
Yeah.
100% AC.
Dude, my child was just born, and thank God I don't have to worry about polio. Thank God I don't have to worry about like all these different diseases that used to just kill children back then.
Yeah.
Or like that my wife can have labor and I'm not worried about her dying because obviously we have medicine that's suitable now. It's like, it's just insanity, dude. Like, the best it's ever gonna get is right now. Yeah. Always present. Because like even let's say like, oh, I had a good this year or whatever. Like, yeah, but it's over. Like, you have to do something now. Yeah. Right now, you're in right now. So, you know, I don't really stick to like romanticizing back then, but every once in a while my mom wanders. I'm like, man, that was pretty cool, right? Yeah. And I catch myself like, nah.
Like, well, I mean, you look back at your service time, and I'm pretty sure you.
Yeah, and there's parts of it like, you know, I was stationed overseas, so there's parts of me like, man, that was awesome. Like, I got to do all this stuff and that. I'm like, it'd be cool to go back. And then I just think about the other stuff that came along with it. It's like, no, it's you know, now I can wake up whenever I want and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, that's 100% true. I like that. I really liked when you said that because I do that with a lot of my past too. I think everybody does, but I would never go back to high school. Yeah. That's 100%. No. Like raising your hand to having to go to the restroom. Yeah. The wackest thing.
You don't even think like of that. Mm-hmm. But back then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I had to ask an adult if I can go there.
Yeah. You have to ask the adult to do everything. Yeah. You have to dress a certain way. You have to speak a certain way. Yeah. All this different crazy stuff. But hey guys, I want to tell you all about my good friends at Meta Training. As you all know, I am a huge fitness fanatic, but there has been one critical element that has been missing from my fitness journey. It is commonly overlooked and extremely underrated, and that is programming. Listen, if you're just starting off, I understand that it can be very hard, and we do want to go on YouTube. We want to check out all these influencers, but listen, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and that is exactly why you need a program, and that's exactly what Meta Training does. They provide a program depending on your goals, whether it's to build strength, gain muscle, whether it's to lose body fat, to increase endurance. Meta Training has multiple trainers to target whichever part of your fitness journey that you want to attack. Also, they have some great apparel. They hooked me up with this, I think it's called like the oversized tee, right? So it's like it's kind of like a pump cover. So they hit me up and they met me up at the gym and they're like, listen, we want you to represent. So that proves to me that Meta Training supports the podcast. Therefore, the podcast supports Meta Training. You can find them on Instagram and their handle is training.meta, and they also have a website. So if you can't necessarily get their program, I do recommend checking them out on Instagram and maybe buying some of their apparel. It is slick, it's clean, and I'm telling you, I'm going to wear it on my next gym sesh. So thank you all. Go check out Training Meta Training. Thank you. Bye-bye. Where I wanted to take this conversation to is back to the honoring your father and what that ties into, it's like I would hate to regret being at my father's like deathbed. And because here's the thing too, is like I don't agree with the notion of like parents trying to completely control their children either. Like that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that you have to listen to every single thing. What I'm saying is that you should truly evaluate yourself, and then but be proud of your past, and then take it from there. And I think in doing that, what ends up happening is that you essentially make your family proud.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say is like I would hate to be in my father's deathbed and him have to scramble for some words of last minute wisdom in order to inspire me to become someone he would be proud of.
Yeah.
I would really love to be in a situation where my dad looks at me on his deathbed and
he's
says,
content.
I'm happy of the man you've become.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. And how many of us would be able to say that, especially nowadays with all these agendas that are being pushed, all these crazy political things that are being pushed on, on us, on society. Because I think that's a heavy weight to carry. And I think a lot of people are being very selfish nowadays. And again, caring about their own identity. And it's not a bad thing to a certain extent, but I think that we need to have balance. I think that we need to care about where we come from, and we need to honor our roots, honor our past. I think that people don't. There's like I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it's like there are some there's like rich kids talking about, or rich kids own BuzzFeed, and they're talking about, oh, help Ukraine, and they're millionaires, and they're not helping Ukraine.
Yeah.
But they want to go and fight Russia when they know damn well they're not going to go fight Russia. Yeah. It's like you don't know the weight of doing that, because at the end of the day, you're going to go home to your mansion and you're going to live this lavish life in air conditioning, and not have to go through what the people are going to have to go through if we go through that. Or the stuff that happened before, the generations that your parents or your grandparents or everybody else did for you in order to put you in a position where you don't have to worry about third world problems. Well, so what I'm trying to get to is that basically we're in a position right now where we don't really have to, like you said, worry about these crazy diseases, the crazy. Let's just look at let's just say my family line. My great-great-grandfather was extremely poor, and he worked very hard to put my grandfather in a situation, and then he worked hard to put my father in a situation, and then my father worked really hard in order to put me in a situation where I am now, that I'm living pretty comfortably. Maybe someone who subscribes to victimhood might not think so, right? But I am very grateful for the position that I am. Yeah, and so in doing that, I have to honor my bloodline. I have to honor my history. I have to honor my father. Yeah. And so that's constantly in my mind, is like how would my family look, or how would my next generation look at me and say, well, he lived a pretty comfortable life, but he complained about everything. And he struggled with this identity because he didn't have to worry about, dude, I'm telling you right now, like these people fighting for like this transgender and stuff like that, they're not worrying about starving. If we were in a couple generations ago, if we were like in the 1900s, people couldn't worry about stuff like that. Yeah. Like they were trying to make it through. Yeah. You know what I mean? They were trying to survive.
Yeah. So not too far removed from me is like my grandparents, right? And they're from Mexico. My parents, they both came over here. They had me, a first generation American in my family, right? So only like two generations ago, right? When I would visit my grandparents, like in the 2000s, right? They didn't have running water. They didn't have, they had barely connected light, right? They lived up in the mountains of Mexico, right? And so that's not even that long ago, but because of where they lived, that was their reality. So my grandpa would get up really early in the morning, go to work on the fields and the farms, right? He ended up, by the time he died, he ended up being the most influential person there in their little town. Like he
Wow.
was the richest guy in the little town, right? That's probably not saying much because it's in the middle of nowhere, Mexico. But in that little community, you know, he built his he built his small empire there, and he had 14 kids. I think maybe even 17. It's just some didn't make it.
Nice.
Yeah. So he built like his own little empire. Like,
Did he have like different women?
No, just one.
So
Just one.
one.
Yeah, one woman had like 17 kids. Yeah.
Hey, that's good though, because I mean, somebody with that much power would probably just be slaying all the girls there, just impregnating everybody's wives. A tyrannical person would do that.
Yeah, no, he was a different breed, man. He was a really good guy. But when I would go over there, it'd be like, oh, we're gonna take a shower. So okay, go start a fire. So go start a fire. Like, okay, here's the water, but we're running low, so you're gonna have to go get water from the well, right? So I have to go get water from the well, put it in there, have the fire, wait for it to heat up. So doing all these steps just to take a bath. Can you imagine doing all these steps just to do anything?
Mm-hmm.
There's just no time, and by the end of the day, you're so tired that you go to sleep, and you wake up and you do it again. There's no time in there to start worrying about like anxieties or some sort of depression or something like that, because you got to keep going.
Yeah.
You have to. There wasn't time, and it's just that's what I think of now. Is just that we have so much free time, because most normal people work 40 hours a week, right? That's like nothing, you know. Back then, like you used to work from dawn till dusk, and then you sleep and you wake up and you do it again, and I would never hear of him or of people from there like they're depressed. They have nothing. Like there's people walking around with no shoes, but they look fine. You know, they're out there moving around, and yet we're over here like, you know, living in this comfort, and we have mental problems. It's just like, I think it's a byproduct of just how advanced our society is getting, and I think it's just going to continue to get, because every day everything's getting more efficient, and so you have a lot more free time on your hands, a lot more free time to think, like, and so when one thing goes bad, it makes a big difference, because now you have time to there absorb it and think about it. When as before, like something went bad, okay, how do I fix this so I can keep going? You know, it's just it's a very first world problem, but I think that's the biggest factor there, and that's why identity is so important, because like kids after school, they get back home and they just start thinking or looking at social media, looking at something, and they try to form what in their head is cool, what in their head is like the most optimal person I could be, or what can I do to impress this person or that person, you know. That's what I think like causes these identity problems. Yeah,
I 100% agree. It's like we just get up and we turn on the hot water.
Yeah.
You just wait a couple seconds and that water will be hot.
I'm in and out of the shower in like 10 minutes. You know?
Yeah. Oh, and but what I also think too is
Not
like
3 hours.
Yeah. What I also think too is that if we don't have any problems, I think people will make problems.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And so because we're so advanced and because we're in this comfortable state, the problems start to become very senseless. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we arguing about identity? Why is it a problem for me to use pronouns as he or she to somebody, right? It's like that was never meant to be a pronoun. Like the pronoun he and she were never supposed to be a signification of respect. It was just a way to identify somebody, right?
It's just a language.
It's just like, it's like a very broad way to identify somebody. So how do we know who I'm talking to? Let's say we got 5 guys or we have 1 guy and 5 girls over there, right? And it's like, well, I want to talk to the guy. It's like, well, I want to talk to him. Right? And that's what we do. We just identify people that way. It's not supposed to be this high honor of respect. It was never like that. Even Sir and Ma'am, it was never like that. But we get so bored, and so we make up arguments. It's like, no, that's disrespectful to my identity. It's like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. The thing is, like, you know, I get like having respect for whatever anyone wants to do, wants to be, you know, whatever. I respect it. It's cool. It's just like forcing everyone else to come to that. It's like,
or forcing it on the children too.
You're at the end of the day, you're just gonna be disappointed because it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen universally, right?
Well, it's kind of like
You're setting yourself up for.
it's hypocritical too. It's like they get upset because you don't want to adopt their mentality, right? And so what they're doing is they're trying to push the agenda on you, but they get mad if you try to push the agenda on them.
Yeah.
It's like fire fighting fire. It's like it's never gonna work.
Yeah, and that's only one thing, right? Like, there's a million things going on right now that you could probably just open your Twitter app and you'll see, a million different things that could basically be boiled down to the same thing. It's just, finding a reason to get upset about something, And some people take it really serious. Man, it could be an argument about comic books and people go crazy. Argument about this and they're, like, getting at each other. It's just a crazy time, man. It's a very insane time.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's been consuming my mind a lot, like the whole honor the father thing. I'm a Christian, so for me, I also look at the Bible, and just like the first book of the Bible, Genesis, it talks about, well, not Genesis, well, I'll scratch that, but the whole concept of Jesus coming to earth, right? And what does he do? Right, he comes, he sacrifices himself all in honor of his father, right? And so basically God needs a human identity because he promised that he can never go on earth, right, and touch, because that's humans' place. Earth is humans' place, and he can't touch it. So he sends his son down there, and in honor of his father, he suffers everything imaginable that at the time you can imagine, and then he dies and he resurrects, and by resurrecting, he accomplishes the promise of his father. And so in a way, he's honoring his father. Yeah. And so I've always looked at that story in that way. And that's always resonated with me in this way. And that's why it's always been consumed in my mind, I guess. And so I had a conversation with, shout out to Josh Garza. I don't know if you heard that one. It's a really good one. Yeah. Very overlooked. Doesn't have that many views, but it's a very good one because since I've been really thinking about all this, because I'm going to be having a child, and I messaged you and I'm like, hey, I want to have a conversation about this, right? I thought about Josh because I was like, man, I started thinking about all this when I realized I had a child. But like he said on that podcast, what if you just didn't start thinking about that when you had a child? Maybe you were thinking about it your whole life. And I think that's true. I think that has been subconsciously in my mind. Yeah. Because I've always wanted to honor my family, honor where I come from. 100%.
I mean, I named my son after my father. That's I completely agree with you there. You have to give them respect. They're, your family are flawed. Like, every family is flawed in some sort of way. But they are what made you you. You can't run from it, man. So, like, maybe when I was younger, I had resentment towards people in my family. Now I don't. That's my family. And now, like you said, you have to honor your father, you honor your family. I just try my best to, be a good person and someone they can be proud of. And I think that is pretty normal, man. Like, everyone should strive to that. That's a certain standard that I think everyone should try to meet.
Yeah, and by, I want to be very clear. When I say honor your father, I don't mean be disrespectful to your mother. I don't mean not honor your mother. No. But just for the listeners, because I've taken on this persona recently that I'm like some type of sexist.
No, I mean, he's just using it as a analogy for your whole family.
Yeah, well, because we often hear that too, is in a biblical sense too. It's like honor your father, honor your father, which is God, obviously. So that's why I'm using that. But what I'm really trying to say is honor your lineage, honor the people that have come before you, is what I'm really trying to say.
1,000%. Everything they did put you in the position that you are now. And if you really take a look around at everything that's going on right now, like, you more than likely, if you're listening to this, of course, you have it pretty well. You have it pretty well. And that's because they made sacrifices. And just try to go back in your family tree and you'll find, like, wow, they went through that. They went through that. They went through that. It gets worse and worse and worse. Maybe you had a grandfather that served in World War something. Hey, man, that's a huge contribution. That was a major, major event in human history, right? Can you imagine, like, even seeing one day of battle? And, So just try to keep that in mind as you look around at where you're at today. Like, you're doing pretty well, man.
Yeah, I would even challenge people, because I've done this with my dad. I would challenge the listeners right now. Go to your like grandfather, go to your grandmother, whoever it is in your family, someone elderly, and ask them about a specific moment in their life, and allow them to rant. And so what I mean is, like, ask them, when did you get your first job and how did that go? And allow your grandfather to just go through the process and allow that, because nowadays you get on the computer and you apply.
Yeah.
It's like, I would be very interested on how your grandfather had to go out and find a job and get things together. How did he get there? Because he was probably, did the family have enough money for vehicles? Stuff like that. Listen, I'm telling you guys, I think that's going to be a very good way to reflect. I do think a lot of people discard history and where we come from. I think that's a problem of it. They don't know the weight of like the founding fathers and everything that's been able to be put into place to where we're at now.
And if you don't ask those questions, man, you're gonna regret it. Like, I think it's important to know about just things about your family, because they all have some sort of lesson, some sort of significance, and when they're gone, you're not gonna be able to get them back, man. You're not gonna be able to ask them that question. So yeah, that's a great point, man. You should go back and ask your grandpa, your grandma, ask them a question. You'll be pretty amazed by what they say. I would think, right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that too, because I already asked these type of questions, but
I ask them all the time. Ever since I was little, I would grow up at just asking questions. I'd learn about this and learn about that, and every once in a while, I learned something new. Like, oh wow, that happened. Oh, that's crazy,
Yeah, another thing too is like politics nowadays. It's very I think the younger demographic doesn't really care about it. I think the vast majority of it, just because we don't think it's gonna have like a big effect on us, as opposed to like back in the day. I think it was a lot more important.
Yeah,
like the laws that were being set then. I'm not saying that and thinking that it's not important now, because I do think it's important now. But I'm saying is that
it's pretty important.
Yeah, children, I think, look at it as in it's not important.
Oh no, I didn't. I remember back when we had that recession in 2008. I was a kid, right? What were we, like 13?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really affect me, right? Like, I still had food. I still had a home. My dad would take me to football practice still. But just imagining back then when people made less, gas was at $4 a gallon. Like, right now it's at $4 a gallon, right? But back then people made less.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Like, he had to like go through a time like that. As us as kids, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But now that I'm seeing it right now, I'm like, wow. Like, back then it must have been even harder. Because right now, obviously, we make a lot more than what people do back then, and
for sure.
And it's still like, God damn, $4. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. Anything else you want to touch on, man?
No, unless there's something else you want to talk about. I think there's a bunch of different ways we can go on it.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I think we can stop it here. And if we do want to go a different direction with it, we can always have another discussion on it. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know if you think what I said was silly or if it made sense. I was trying to compile all of my ideas into one 45-minute discussion. Might have done a good job, might have not. Let us know in the comments below. I want to thank Angel.
Sir.
Love having you
Anytime.
on. And anytime you want to be on the show.
Sir.
You're welcome. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Make sure that you are leaving some feedback on the YouTube, on Spotify. Also, you can find the podcast on any other platform that you find podcasts on. I recently found out, I Googled myself on Google.
Yeah.
Like on podcast. And apparently I have more listens on Google Play.
What?
Than any other platform or something like that. Pretty crazy. But anyways, I appreciate y'all. I would appreciate if you go check out the Instagram, The Real Common Podcast. And also I'm coming out with a reaction channel where I'll be making very short videos just reacting to a bunch of crazy stuff that's going on the internet. That's coming up very soon.
Yes, sir.
But anyways, thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. And until next time, peace.
Peace.
Gigs on the track.